namaskar and adab to all my friends from your friend astrologer and guide Irfan once more with you from your very own channel Astro Assurance. When we have planetary placements in the horoscope, the first thing we always want to look out is how well they are placed, in what dignity they are placed. Are they exalted? Are they debilitated? Are they in good strength? Are they in good yogas? Or is there a challenge in their placements? So when we are interested in knowing the dignity, we want to know whether a planet is exalted or debilitated, because we assume, we think, little do we know that whether an exalted planet truly gives the best results and whether a debilitated planet truly gives devastating results. There is more than meets the eye, because many of the facets of the exalted and the debilitated planets, though they are not a secret, but they are lesser known because they are lesser discussed. However, it is important for us to know what dignity the planet is also placed in, even when it is exalted or debilitated, or in inimical signs or in friendly signs. One aspect of it is how and where does a planet get exalted and debilitated, and whether a planet can give you exalted results or close to exalted results even when not exalted, and whether can a planet, in spite of being debilitated, give better results even when strongly debilitated. So let's jump in and see how different planetary energies in different placements can give you results close to exaltation even when not exalted, and can give you results close to debilitation even when not debilitated, because of placement of the planets in certain houses. So for example, we know that Sun gets exalted in the sign of Aries. Aries sign in the Kalpurush Kundli is the first house. So when Sun gets into any house, Sun will manifest his results basis the results or the strength of the sign in the Kalpurush Kundli. Now because when Sun goes into the first house will always retain some energies of the Aries sign. So Sun, even when it is debilitated in the first house, will not completely show the energies of debilitation, or will give better results even when debilitated if it's in the first house, because in the first house it has Aries energies, some Aries energies are retained, and so it gets some energies of exaltation because Sun is strongly placed in the Lagna in the first house. So what does this do? This person may feel powerful and wants the leadership. Sometimes this person may even feign power even when he or she doesn't have the power. This person may crave power too much and even retain at least a bit of it because of some strength of the Sun is retained. But this person may need to watch out who the person tries to cross swords with, because sometimes the person may himself or herself find themselves in those situations which they can't handle, and so because of arrogance and a false projection of power and influence, they may be at the receiving hand. So this is a tough placement for Sun if it's debilitated. However, because of being placed in the first house, it will retain some strength. So if you have Sun even in debilitation in the first house, don't lose hope, because it has some strength. Even if it's an inimical sign, even if it is in a bad dosha, it will still retain strength. Even if it's in eclipse mode, Sun will still retain some strength in the Lagna. So if you have Sun in any dignity in the first house, thank the zodiac, because the Sun has been given some power and influence to exert its energy. Now when Sun gets into the 7th house, 7th house is the sign of Libra, where Sun usually gets debilitated. So when Sun gets into the 7th house in any sign, even if in exaltation sign of Aries, the Sun will be in a spot of bother, because it is in the 7th house, which has Libra sign energies, is debilitation sign energies. So now, while Sun is not able to retain complete strength, however, if it's in exaltation, it is still better in partnerships rather than in a relationship. So this person has to be careful not to be too directive in his or her relationship or come across as too controlling. With even an exalted Sun in the 7th house, the projection of the person may be trying to control, trying to dictate, and this energy may backfire for the person. And so losses may still come across to the person because of not being measured, how much they can control, how much they need to exert the authority, and where they need to let down their need for control, let down their need to exert themselves. So if you have Sun in the 7th house in any sign, be a little careful how you exert your control or try to exert your control in partnerships, especially in relationships, because yeah, the most that can suffer when Sun is in the 7th house is your relationship. And so if you have Sun in the 7th house in the horoscope, in your horoscope, be a little more giving in relationship rather than being more controlling. Now if Mercury is in the 6th house in your horoscope, if Mercury is in the 6th house in the horoscope, even if it's in the debilitation sign of Pisces, but because the 6th house has Virgo energy, so this person is able to retain the analytical ability and their logic to a large extent even in Pisces sign. So this person, because Mercury is able to retain some strength even in Pisces sign, for example, this person may struggle a little bit with a lot of their decision and not be as analytical or as logical as the person may wish to be. However, the person may still be able to hit the bullseye every now and then. This is a highly creative energy, but this energy has to be used, measured along with the analytical ability, because this person can then excel in a more creative environment in the service industry. So if you have Mercury in the 6th house, even in debilitation sign, there is nothing to lose. Mercury is still able to retain some strength. Just try not to be over analytical and not to be over dependent on logic, practicality, because be a little more creative, be a little bit more imaginative. Mercury will still give you more decent results even in the Pisces sign. If it's in a friendly sign, even better. And if it's in Virgo, then it's a zodiac's given gift to you. On the other hand, if Mercury is in the 12th house, 12th house has the Pisces energies where Mercury gets debilitated. So yeah, Mercury, even if it's an exaltation sign of Virgo in the 12th house, still the person will struggle with how much analytical they can be, how much practical and logical that they can be. And because it has the 12th house, which has Pisces energies, here a person needs to be more creative and imaginative rather than being completely logical or completely practical or completely very analytical. So sometimes this person may try to be over logical and will extend all their required energy, their resources and labor, even they need to be a little easy. And so these results may then go to a little waste and be excess also because of overthinking. So if you have Mercury in the 12th house, whatever sign it is, and even in exaltation, be a little bit more easy on the over logical front, but be more creative and be more imaginative, because Mercury is losing a lot of strength of its analytical ability, but will gain a lot of its creative energy. So if you have Mercury in the 12th house, be a little careful not to be over logical, because that may only lead to more excesses and more expensive results that comes to you, because some of the decisions may not work in your favor. Now if Venus is in the 12th house, where Venus has an exaltation energy, because it being in a house which has Pisces sign energies where Venus gets exalted. So Venus in the 12th house retains a bit of exaltation energy even when it is in the debilitation sign. This is as if the zodiac has given a boon to the person to be able to enjoy the areas of the 12th house, which is bed pleasures, intimacy, but being more measured and being more reserved in their intimacy than going overboard, because this can also give you high expenses when Venus is debilitated in the 12th house rather than when it is exalted. Because in an exaltation placement, Venus will be able to not only have a good quality of life, but probably be also be able to afford it. But if Venus is even a debilitated sign in the 12th house, Venus retains some strength, will still give you the good quality of life. Here you may need to struggle a bit and not go overboard. So if you have Venus in the 12th house, this is some boon given to you by the zodiac, but be a little careful how you expend your energies in the bedroom, in the matters of intimacy, and how much of good quality of life you want and how much you want to live it up, because there could come a time when you are able to, when you are living more than what is possible for you and what is affordable for you. Now on the other hand, if Venus is in the 6th house, even if it's an exaltation, but because the 6th house has the Virgo energies where Venus gets debilitated, so this is surely a little challenging placement for it. Now this is a tougher energy for men than women. For men, it is as if most, if not all women are inimical to them, and it won't be easy for men to get along with some women, at least in general. And these women may be troublesome for the men to handle. So usually they may not get enough support maybe even intimacy, or even get into trouble with some women when trying to be more intimate. So in some cases, they may get challenges in doing the sexual act due to weaknesses, sexual weaknesses, and habits are very important to be kept clean when Venus goes into the 6th house. So if you have Venus in the 6th house, however good strength it may be, whether man and women or women, especially for men, be a little careful how you are working with women, how much respect you give them, and how much you push them in matters of friction between you two, and try and maintain your hygiene and keep a cleaner hygiene, because this is a place replete with getting into trouble. Now if moon is in the 2nd house, even in debilitation sign, because moon in the 2nd house means, because the 2nd house has Taurus energy, so moon in the 2nd house, even in debilitation, retains a lot of its strength. And so such a person will may be very creative, very innovative, and very empathetic also. However, while money may not be as difficult if moon, for example, gets into the 8th house, but the expenses may be slightly higher than they can afford, and their savings may be eaten into, because moon will still be able to get finances coming in even in debilitation sign or in inimical sign or friendly sign or own sign. However, this may not retain as much on the resources front or the nourishment front as moon in actual 2nd house in Taurus would bring. So sometimes the person may also be more giving and maybe expending more the resources more because of emotional reasons also, or being too gullible emotionally. So while finances may not be huge, but and some of it may keep flowing it, but they need to be careful how to manage their finances and their emotions so that they are able to manage both the energies well. And this person with moon in the 2nd house, even in debilitation or in inimical signs, will get better emotional support of family or at least some close members when compared to the others, because here moon is retaining a lot of its strength even in the debilitation sign. On the other hand, if moon is in the 8th house, even in the exaltation sign, for example, if moon is in the 8th house in Taurus, this is a difficult energy for the person to manage. The projection of this energy is that the person may be emotionally intelligent, but frequent situations will keep draining the person of their energy and their senses, and surely the emotional balance every now and then may be disturbed. The person may be just too overwhelmed to be able to retain their focus, retain their sensibilities, and to function properly. They may be hit with one situation after the other, and they may need to be optimally use their emotional strength without succumbing to the pressures of anxiety or even depressive results. Now when Mars is in the 10th house in your horoscope, even if it's in debilitation sign of Cancer, but because it is in the 10th house which has Capricorn energies, so your Mars does retain some strength compared to if Mars would be in Cancer sign, for example, some strength compared to if Mars was in the 4th house, for example, in debilitation. So because Mars gets highest directional strength in the 10th house, because it has Capricorn energy, so this person is able to retain his fighting abilities, his ability to be goal getting, his ability to be able to assertive, and to also fight his way through some of the obstacles. However, sometimes this person is not able to handle authority figures well, and may get on the wrong side of authority figures, and unnecessary friction may result, because your Mars may not be in the best of friendly signs. If Mars is in a more friendly sign, like in the, for example, in the Pisces sign or in the Sagittarius sign, or say for example in the Aries sign, in own sign, then Mars will be giving fantastic results, especially if it's in the Aries sign or Capricorn. Then it is in the Ruchak Mahapurush Yoga, and even in Scorpio sign. However, this person has to guard against unpredictable behavior to get the better of them, and not to come across as being too temperamental, and not come across as too emotional, or to be completely devoid of the killer instinct. Now Mars in the 4th house, even in exaltation, this is a tough energy to handle, because the 4th house has the Cancer energies where Mars gets debilitated. So in the 4th house, Mars is in a Mangalic position, surely, though it may not be in a Mangal dosha if it's in an exaltation sign, for example. But if Mars is in the exaltation sign in the 4th house, or even in own sign of Aries or Scorpio, though it may not have a Mangal dosha, but it retains some degree of being Mangalic. So those results will also come in. So this person, if Mars is in the 4th house, will still not be able to completely control his or her temper, his emotion, his anger, and sometimes rather than fighting for family or keeping the family secure, the person ends up fighting the family. Sometimes doesn't know what to fight for and what not to fight for. So this can be disturbing energy in the 4th house. So if Mars is in the 4th house in any sign, even if in if it's an exaltation, be a little careful how much energy you spend on the household, on the family members, and be a little careful to be more calmer rather than being too pushy in the matters of domestic peace and harmony, because the biggest disturbance that Mars can do for the peace and harmony in your life, it can be if Mars gets into the 4th house. Now if Jupiter gets into the 4th house, even if it's in the debilitation sign, but because the 4th house has Cancer energy, so Jupiter still does very, very well. If it gets into inimical signs or in friendly signs or exaltation sign then of Cancer, then of course it will do very, very well. However, Jupiter even in tough signs or even in debilitation will still give you high abundance, prosperity and the wisdom to be able to deal with issues at home. However, the problem is that this person sometimes is too wise and doesn't have the balance and the tact and may end up coming across as too giving. When in debilitation or inimical signs, especially in the 4th house, the person may also come across as too overconfident of the assets and then may get into trouble later on with the acquired wealth, especially in inimical signs or debilitation signs. However, if Jupiter is in the 4th house, even in debilitation sign, Jupiter is still a very friendly and benefic planet. It will give you a lot, but it is up to you to be able to protect the assets of the house and to keep the balance and harmony at home, and try and be balanced in how wise you can be and how with tact and diplomacy you can behave at home. Now if Jupiter is in the 10th house, then this is a spot of bother for Jupiter, because the 10th house has Capricorn energies where Jupiter gets debilitated. Even if it's an exaltation sign in the 10th house, but because 10th house has Capricorn energies, so Jupiter does lose a lot of strength, especially the strength to be wise. So this person may sometimes come across as too wise for the management, even if it's an exaltation sign where the management feels this person doesn't have the killer instinct, this person doesn't have the authoritativeness which is required to be able to manage team, which is required to be able to manage tough goals. So this person, even in the best of signs in the 10th house, when Jupiter is in the 10th house, may not be able to get the best results, because Rahu energies, Sun energies, Mars energies are required more in the 10th house. So sometimes if you have the Jupiter in the 10th house in the best of signs, you may still come across either as too soft or too wise, rather than being able to use tact and diplomacy, because sometimes you are not able to manage the power struggle which is going out in the 10th house. So you learn to be more tactful and learn to be also more current to the ways of the political world, rather than trying to be too wise or too nice. Now if Saturn is in the 7th house, 7th house has Libra energies where Saturn gets exalted. However, even if Saturn is in the debilitation sign of Aries, but if it's in the 7th house, then Saturn retains a lot of its strength. Saturn gets exalted usually in the 7th house in Libra, because Saturn is about commitment, loyalty, and the 7th house is the house of relationship, partnerships. Relationships and partnerships cannot do without commitment, loyalty, and being disciplined in the commitment and loyalty, rather than start looking around. So Saturn gives the best results, gives the most stable results when it is in the Libra sign, especially in the 7th house. But if Saturn gets into the 7th house, even if it's in the Aries sign, it still retains a lot of its strength. And Saturn gives high organized effort and discipline in relationship. But this may also create challenges, especially when Saturn gets into inimical signs or in debilitation, where the person may not be able to put enough effort. And so this person, if you have Saturn in the 7th house, has to be more dedicated, more giving, so that Saturn is able to give you better results if it gets into the 7th house in inimical signs. So if you have Saturn in the 7th house, however dignity it may be, it will still give you stability, but it is up to you to be more giving and to be able to be more balanced, more committed, so that Saturn gives you more stable results over a period of time. Now if Saturn is in the 1st house, even if it's in the exaltation sign of Libra in the 1st house, but the 1st house has Aries energies where Saturn gets debilitated. So whichever sign Saturn may be, even in exaltation sign, Saturn is still in a spot of bother here, because Aries energies will take away some of the strength of Saturn to be stable, to be disciplined, to be organized, because Aries energies are of being impatient, of rushing into things. So sometimes Saturn in the Lagna, in the 1st house, can be too confused about not being able to keep the patience. Should I really be so patient? Should I have to wait so much? Should I really have to work so hard? So this is some dilemma that Saturn may give you in the 1st house, because of having the Aries energies, which is the Martian energies, which is the go-getter. So sometimes the person becomes too confused and is not able to take decisions on time, or sometimes procrastinates. So there is always a tug of war, how soon to go into action or not to go into action, and how much disciplined effort to take, how much to be able to keep patience, or how much to be able to take action and on time. So this person has to learn to persevere even in tough situations before Saturn showers its big blessings on the person. So if it's in a debilitation sign, for example, in the first house, then it can make somebody highly impatient and lose the perspective. While even in exaltation, it makes the person work harder and has to wait too long for best results. So a difficult energy, as it is the house of Mars and exaltation sign of exaltation house of Sun. So friends, now that we have seen not the hidden but less known or less talked about or less manifestation about how planets in different houses, because of the sign energies of the house, may also give different manifestation, different results. So if your planet is in a house where it may get exalted because of the sign energies of that house, then you are in a stroke of luck. Say for example, Jupiter in the 4th house. But if planet is in a debilitation sign, for example, Jupiter in any dignity in the 10th house, obviously it will be creating trouble for you. So keep this in mind, how well the planet is in some houses, keeping the dignity and the strength it is retaining because of the house having some sign energies, and then be able to manifest and calculate the energies accordingly and be more confident, even if it's in a debilitation sign, but in a house which is the exaltation energies. And don't be completely overwhelmed if it's in an exaltation sign, but if it's in a debilitation house energies, where the house has debilitation energies of the planet. So friends, like this video, share this video, and if you're looking for a personal consultation from me, please reach out to me at the links given below. Till some other time with some other video, this is the friend astrologer and guide Irfan signing off. Ciao.